Welcome to the channel, English Epics, Mr. Watkins. Shay, I don't believe this is really what you want to do. I raised an eyebrow. And why is that, Doc? Well, I know that the desire for revenge is natural, but I also know that it's a dangerous reaction that, I guarantee, will turn against you. I slowly turned my head to the right to look at Amy, who had lowered her head and seemed to be trying her best to appear insignificant in the current discussion. After watching her for a few moments, I looked back at Dr. Kearns and noticed her irritating attempt at a friendly smile, which, honestly, looked more like she was holding in a fart. I also noticed the absence of rings on her left hand. She was an attractive woman closer to my age, but over the past few weeks, she had been testing my patience. Well, Doc, I yawned. I'm sure I don't understand what you mean when you say this will turn against me. I just can't picture that as a possible outcome. Well, let's take a look at this. What Amy did was selfish and wrong. Revenge is also selfish and wrong, but it's also a purely malicious attack. Amy didn't attack you. Seeking revenge would only show her that your sole interest is in causing her pain in return, which means you have no love or care for her or the marriage. I think the fact that you're here means that you still care, Anne. Excuse me, document. You must have forgotten. I was the one who filed for divorce, remember? I'm here because Old Faithful over there was struggling with this and demanded counseling, and the court ordered it. Yes, but still, we have to work together to rebuild trust, and that will certainly be more difficult if she loses trust in you. What if she decides that your attempt to hurt her is more than she can handle and chooses to walk away from the marriage for good? I smiled at her. That would seem terribly hypocritical to me. What do you think, Amy? If I had slept with someone else, or let's say for other people multiple times, would you have walked away from our marriage? Mr. Watkins, the best revenge is refusing to compromise your dignity or principles rather than lowering yourself to that level and having an affair out of spite. Thank you, Doc, I understand you. But I didn't hear an answer to the question I asked my wife. Come on, Amy. Why don't you join the discussion? How are we supposed to fix our marriage if you refuse to answer the tough questions? If I went and slept with 4 other women multiple times with each, just to even the score, would you consider us equal, or would you think we were done? Amy grimaced. Mr. Watkins, Oh, for heaven's sake, Doc, just call me Shay. Shay, this isn't productive. And regardless of whether you decide to save your marriage or not, your self-esteem, self-respect, and happiness remain yours. No one should have the power to take that away from you. Don't lower yourself to negative behavior that puts you on the same level as Amy's infidelity. Rise above it and focus on your greatest strength, yourself. Making yourself stronger, happier, and more confident might be the best revenge you could ever have, and it's the only chance we have to identify the problems in your marriage that led Amy to cheat in the first place. Cheated, I said quietly. I'm sorry, Dr. Kearns asked. Cheated. Document plural, she cheated on me multiple times, with multiple men. But now, if you don't mind, I'd like to change the subject. Dr. Kearns nodded. Amy was still trying to pretend. This wasn't happening. Amy, I'll come back to my question later, so you might want to take some time to think about your answer. I glanced at the good doctor and thought that if she didn't let out a fart soon, she might just spontaneously combust. So, Doc, you just said that I should rise above this, stay positive and goal-oriented so we can figure out what led Amy to cheat. We need to determine what went wrong in our marriage that drove her to sleep with multiple other men, repeatedly. Correct? Exactly, Shay. Once we identify those reasons, we can address them from a positive perspective and begin the healing and rebuilding process for your relationship. So what you're saying is that it's my fault she's an adulteress. That kind of language is counterproductive, Shay. And yes, to some extent, this is your fault. Women in happy, fulfilling relationships simply don't commit adultery. I shot her my best skeptical look, which she ignored. It takes 2 people to make a marriage strong and to keep both partners from straying. If we can identify these issues, we can address them and have a better chance of ensuring fidelity, trust, and harmony. For a moment, I was caught off guard, thinking it over, and finally I quietly said, "I call that nonsense and manipulation." "Excuse me?" the doctor asked, looking confused. "Manipulation, Doc. A devious trick used for a hidden agenda." "I know what the word means, Shay. I just don't understand. Why you think there's any manipulation happening here?" "Uh-huh. First of all, my unfaithful wife, who claims she wants to fix our marriage, the marriage she destroyed, refuses to participate in this discussion. There are two people supposedly working on this marriage, but she isn't one of them. And second, you think it's appropriate to place the responsibility for her promiscuous behavior on me. Mr. Watkins, be quiet, document. I'm paying for this, and I'll have my say. If there were problems in our marriage, then the reasonable reaction from my loving wife would have been to tell me about them so we could work on them together. Would you agree?" She nodded, looking slightly embarrassed. "So, if she had chosen to take an active, healthy approach and discuss her problems with me, along with her desire to resolve them in our marriage, and I had ignored her or refused to acknowledge the issues, then I would be at fault and responsible for my part in perpetuating the problems in our marriage. Of course, and if that were the case, then her reaction would have been either to accept it or not and decide whether she wanted to stay in the relationship or continue trying to fix it. But she didn't do that. As far as I know, she wasn't unhappy. I'm not a saint, but she never talked to me about any dissatisfaction with our marriage that would justify torpedoing it. No, document. If she was unhappy or dissatisfied with our marriage, then her actions have completely absolved me of any responsibility for that. This is on her, and your attempts to shift the blame onto me are manipulation, and I won't accept it. Shay, if you can't accept your share of responsibility, I guarantee your marriage won't survive this." I slowly leaned back in my chair, then stood up and walked toward the door. "I think we're done here. Dr. Kearns, if you still want to help us, leave me a message before the next session explaining why I should even bother." Our life together up until this point had been unremarkable, ordinary. Amy and I had been married for 20 years. We met in college during our freshman year, but didn't start dating right away because we were both in serious relationships at the time. However, during that first year, we ran into each other at a party and realized that neither of us was in a serious relationship anymore. We quickly started dating. After a few months, I wanted to be exclusive, but Amy refused. I looked at her, thanked her for the past few months, and wished her a happy life. She was taken aback. "Shay, wait. What's going on? Are you saying that if I refuse exclusivity, then it's over between us?" "Yes, Amy, that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm looking for a long-term partner, not a casual hookup that I have to share. If that's not you, then I want to be free to look for someone else who is. But you can date other people too, Shay. I don't see why we have to stop seeing each other, just so you can date others. We have fun together and the sex is great. I'm seeing a few guys and I still want to spend time with you. You're free to do the same, and if you find someone special you want to be serious with, I won't stand in your way." "I thought I had already found her, Amy. I'm sorry I wasted both your time and mine. Goodbye." After that, I never saw Amy again and spent the rest of my undergrad years dating other women. Sometimes we ran into each other at parties, but I never spoke to her, let alone called her. By my senior year, I was dating a beautiful Asian girl and was seriously considering marriage when she told me that she had been accepted into a graduate program abroad and would be leaving a week after graduation. She was so excited that I couldn't bring myself to tell her how I felt. Instead, I swallowed my wounded pride and helped her celebrate. Gradually, I started distancing myself from her. But she either didn't notice or, if I'm being completely honest with myself, just didn't care. And a week after graduation, she left. I still get letters from her now and then. But as far as romance goes, that chapter is over. After graduating from university, I got a job at a large software development firm and began my career. I was making great money, and after 2 years, I was offered a position on the sales team. I had started in the development department, but they quickly realized that I was one of the few developers they could trust to work with clients. Before long, I became an implementation project manager and a pre-sales support specialist for our account managers who needed both technical expertise and a personal touch. Eventually, the vice president of sales decided that I would likely succeed in sales, and she was right. In my first year in the sales department, I achieved 121% of my quota, which resulted in a significant boost to my income. I was happy with my job, owned a beautiful high-end apartment, drove a new car, and overall lived the carefree life of a bachelor with no commitments. I dated, I had sex, and I was miserable. I wanted a relationship, someone to share my success and my life with. After 2 successful years in sales, I unexpectedly ran into Amy again. She was working as a junior procurement agent at a company where I was giving a presentation and had been assigned to the team evaluating our solution and proposal. Long story short, we started dating, and this time, Amy seemed ready for commitment. She even insisted on exclusivity. She appeared to have changed, and the chemistry between us was still there, so I agreed. 18 months later, we got married. 2 years after that, Amy gave birth to our son, Peter. Unfortunately, she was told that having another child would not be advisable. We were devastated but grateful to have Pete, and we decided to move forward with our lives. I had a vasectomy, and we focused on cherishing our marriage, each other, our son, and our careers. After Pete left for college, tension started to arise between Amy and me. She became distant, spoke little to me, and often seemed to prefer being anywhere I wasn't. Our once passionate sex life dwindled to nearly nothing, and I began to have doubts about Amy. She worked long hours and showed me no affection. I never ignored problems, so I hired a private investigator to find out what was going on. What he uncovered is what led us to this moment. Mr. Watkins, this is Dr. Kearns. I believe I understand your frustration after our last session, and I want to assure you that I am here to help both you and Amy. I truly do not hold you responsible for her decisions and actions. I do believe there must have been cracks in your marriage, but I acknowledge that you are right. How Amy chose to handle them is our primary concern. Please understand that my goal is for both of you to emerge from this stronger. I want you to heal from the pain she has caused you, and I want to help both of you navigate this new reality, whatever it may be. Please don't give up on me, on Amy, or on your marriage. I sincerely hope to see you tomorrow at our session. I genuinely wanted an answer to my question, and since Amy was currently staying with a friend and we weren't speaking, I thought, what the hell? I'll give the doc one more chance. Besides, if I refuse to participate, I could be held in contempt of court, which would mean having to start the sessions all over again. Have the two of you been intimate since all of this started? I stared at Amy, who seemed frozen in the same chair and position as in our last session. I waited a moment before answering. No, Doc. We haven't had any intimacy, I said, still looking at Amy, who stubbornly refused to meet my gaze or look at the counselor. And why is that, Shay? Doc, do you mind if I pause for a second and speak directly to Amy? She looked wary but nodded in agreement. Amy, are you here to participate or not? Because it feels like I'm the one doing all the heavy lifting, and as far as I know, I wasn't the one who lied and slept with other people. I didn't want this, you did. Either you step up or I end this right now. Yes. Sorry. I'll try to be more, yes, I'll participate. Good. Great. The doc wants to know why we aren't having sex. Why don't you answer that question, and I'll fill in any details afterward. Of course. Sorry. Well, Shay isn't speaking to me, and right now I'm living with a friend, so we don't really have the opportunity, and tick, 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 and I asked. And I haven't been tested for any diseases. Tick, tick, tick. And I pressed again. And, well, Shay says that intimacy isn't something he's comfortable with right now. That's not exactly what I said, but sure, that's a less colorful way of putting it. Doc, do you have any idea how many times over the years I had the opportunity to have an affair? Well, no. How could I? But I can assume you've had more than enough opportunities. You're a very attractive, fit, and successful man, so I'd imagine there have been plenty of them. I winked at her, and she blushed slightly. Damn right. And they continue to be, plentiful. But here's my problem. Document. You see, putting aside Amy's absolute dishonesty, selfishness, and what all of this has done to my love and attraction for her, I can't be intimate with her for 3 reasons. First, under no circumstances do I want to give the impression that I condone her behavior. If I were to be intimate with her before we resolve our marriage, I'd feel like I was accepting her infidelity, and I'm not. Second, I refuse to put my health at risk. I have no idea what kind of diseases she might be carrying now, and honestly, I wouldn't touch her with someone else's hands. At that, I smirked. And finally, I need to balance the scales. Up until now, I've turned down every opportunity. Pardon the pun. I believed in the vows we took. I respected and loved my wife enough that I never wanted to hurt her, jeopardize her health, or put our relationship at risk. But now it seems she's taken the opportunity to experience 5 different men, multiple times each, and for me to feel that the scales are balanced, I should have the same opportunity to see what other women have to offer. This isn't about revenge, Doc. That's just a happy side effect. No, this is about equality, fairness, and balance. Wouldn't you say those are important factors in fixing our marriage? Amy was trembling, and Dr. Kearns chewed the inside of her cheek, carefully considering her response. 5, she whispered. I was starting to grow impatient with the both of them. Doc, how many more sessions did the court order? She quickly looked at me, processing the sudden shift in topic. Well, let's see. The court ordered 4 more sessions, All right. Let me ask you this. Do you think we can fix things enough over the next 4 sessions that I might consider withdrawing my divorce petition? Amy sighed. I turned to look at her. Amy, I'm going to be as honest with you as possible. The only hope, and let me be clear, I'm not guaranteeing anything, but the only hope that I might drop the divorce is if I feel like the balance has been restored. Mr. Watkins, I thought I explained how destructive that would be. We have 4 sessions left, and I think... Thank you, Doc. I'm well aware of your thoughts on the matter. I turned back to Amy. I'll repeat the question I asked you last week. If I feel that the only way for us to even consider staying married is to tip the scales back by sleeping with 5 different women multiple times, what will you do? Will you feel that you can no longer stay married to me and allow the divorce to go through? Or will you accept it? No response. Just sobbing. After a few awkward moments, I turned my attention to Dr. Kearns. When we first walked into this office, a few sessions ago, Dr. Kearns, what did you say was the most important factor for successful counseling? Honesty. You both need to be completely honest with me and with each other if we're going to make any progress. And tell me, Beverly, do you believe I've been honest with you? Her eyes widened slightly at my use of her first name. Yes, I can say that I feel you've been completely honest with me, Shay. Thank you. And would you say you feel the same about Old Faithful over here? She cast a thoughtful glance at Amy, who suddenly looked much less comfortable. Honestly, I don't think I can answer that question. Shay, Amy, you haven't said much during these sessions, and thinking about it now, I have to reconsider. Yeah, me too. Would it surprise you to learn that Amy is still having sex, Beverly? That a friend she's staying with is actually her new lover? Amy shrank into her chair and started quietly sobbing. Dr. Kearns looked troubled. What are minimum requirements to complete the remaining sessions to the court's satisfaction, Beverly? Beverly. Yes. Sorry. What? Well, yes, I can petition the court at any time if I feel there's no point in continuing the sessions, Anne. And what would you recommend, Bev? I asked with a smile. She studied my face for a moment. Then a small, genuine smile began to spread across hers. Looking me straight in the eyes, she replied, would immediately inform the court that I recommend terminating the sessions and granting you a divorce. Amy started shaking and sobbing. Thank you, Bev. I extended my hand and asked, will you call me when our case is officially closed? I'd like you to be my first. Her eyes sparkled just as Amy fainted. Count on it, Shay. Thank you for listening until the end. See you in the next episode of English Epics. Take care of yourself and your loved ones. Goodbye.